We're tracking.
Tracking. Hey, I was just thinking that the song Mask Off by Future is going to just come full circle. It's going to be super popular again.
Yeah, it will. It'll probably become the number one hit when all this blows over.
But, I mean, I guess the chorus is about Molly's and Percocets, but Mask Off will be an appropriate term. We were talking about how it's like we both have our own versions of masks right now, where we're at with the COVID thing.
Yup.
But it might be like a super normal thing for all of America to just be wearing masks in 1 month.
It'll be the latest fashion accessory.
Yeah.
You'll be seeing, there already are Bape and Off-White because of Asia, but you'll be seeing the Gucci and the Louis Vuitton and all those brands making.
I have like the Amazon knockoff version of something that looks like the Target version of Bape. So I'm a few levels down, but I luckily I'm as much of a streetwear F-boy that I have some masks.
It's not Bape spelled B-A-E-P like you'd get.
I thought it was Bape.
Well, no, it is Bape. It's B-A-P-E, not B-A-E-P.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's Bape is actually it's bathing ape.
Yep, a bathing ape.
Yeah, what an interesting thing. That's like one of the more popular brands, and that's their name. I mean, good on them.
I mean, and then they have Baby Milo, the little mascot.
Is that what it's called?
The kid store is they have.
Do we live in a video game? Is this?
I don't know. We might live in a video game.
I think so. I'm all aboard. It feels like a video game lately. So what are we doing right now? We are at the recording studio.
Yeah, we're at Black Diamond Recording Studios in Portland, Oregon.
Yes.
We are doing a socially distant yet not podcast experience.
Yes.
Because it's more fun to be doing this in person than over shitty webcam. And when you're in a recording studio and you're using a poor webcam microphone, that does not.
It doesn't equate
well at all to what we are and what we're capable of doing.
Yeah, so this one has to be impressive.
It has to be impressive. And if you're not impressed by the sound quality, you can be impressed by the content of what we're about to be talking about.
Oh, man, now there's a lot of pressure.
So much. So we're just going to get ready to disappoint.
Okay, here comes the disappointment.
All right, that's it, folks.
See you later. Yeah. Goodbye. Have a good night. So this is cool that we're doing this. It's just like it's such a weird time. That's like what we've been talking about the last hour. Is just it's a confusing, weird time. It's hard to know what to do and how to do it. And like when you email people right now, it seems different and weird. When you text people, it seems different and weird. Like conducting business is weird, driving is weird. Everything is just super weird.
Yeah, so everything it's changed. I had to take my dog to the vet, and you drop the animal off, and it's curbside pickup for your vet appointment.
That seems brutal.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like the drive-in vet.
Yeah, you're like, go on, honey, you're fine.
Yeah, it's like here,
go make some friends.
Go with the stranger. I'm just gonna hand you out the car window, and see you in a bit.
What other shit do you think is gonna be? What other shit is different? What other stuff have you experienced that's different so far? Not being able to...
not being able to like just go out and go like shopping or browsing or like any like hell. Just, like I live in downtown, so just walking around downtown, like you can still go out and walk, but it's desolate.
Do you feel like you're breaking the law when you're out walking?
Nah. Not more than I normally do.
Breaking the law. We went to Fred Meyer like to go shopping, and that didn't seem super weird. Like it is weird seeing the empty shelves, but then just kind of out of habit, we got to where it starts like they have clothes and furniture, and we're like, we're just like kind of walking down that way, and we're like, oh, wait, hold on, this feels weird. Let's turn around and just go home.
Yeah, it's like why we don't need to be going shopping at IKEA.
Right.
Like that we don't need a Detolf.
Well, although a lot of people are probably going shopping at IKEA to get some desks to assemble in their home offices.
Some stand-up desks and all that other. stuff
Yes.
since everyone's working from home.
From home.
Unless you're one of the lucky few who isn't.
Who isn't? Well, so working in solitude and like introverted style of working is something that you know very well. And I know pretty well myself. So how has like work changed for you lately? And actually we can probably bring that right into kind of an introduction, maybe give a little bit of your background if you'd like to, so they know who they're talking to.
Sure.
Seamless.
They won't even suspect it.
They probably won't.
No, not at all. We didn't just have a complete technical malfunction.
We've never had one in our life.
Nope, not at all.
Engineers are perfect.
Yep. Let's see. All right, so the video is recording, video part 2. So now you'll be able to, edit it all together and all that stuff. Because we didn't have any technical difficulties, and I'm going to continually make sure that we don't have any more technical difficulties.
Just have a little glance back once in a while.
Yeah, just a little glancy poo here or there. So back to solitary confinement and living a life of loneliness and computers.
In despair.
Because that's what we were talking about. So working in solitude is nice. Actually, no. We've been trying to stay relatively busy. I have a lot of remote work and stuff that I have to do, which is nice with some of my clients. But aside from that, it's pretty much very like slow. Because
it's slow and it's just weird.
It's just weird.
It's just like we're waiting for whatever we're supposed to be doing next, but we still don't really know what that's going to be. So it's hard to prepare for it at the same time.
Yup. Oh yeah, it's weird. It's weird because no one knows exactly what's going to be happening in a month from now. I mean, shows are canceled, bars are canceled, strip clubs are canceled.
Everything's canceled.
Coachella's postponed.
Coachella's canceled. Crumbles on ground and cries. Yes. Actually, I did enjoy Coachella. I've been a couple times. It is fun, but I don't think that I'll go again.
I don't know. After this whole thing.
Yeah, it's just
that's the other thing is like you're gonna go to a music festival and everyone's gonna have like a lot of space in between each other. It's gonna be
that sounds actually really nice.
What is a mosh pit?
We just we'd have Amphguard. You're allowed the totems, like you can't have totems, but you can bring your Amphguard weapons to let you get the moshing out. Oh man, that would be actually so cool. Like imagine if you're listening to your favorite artist, but you also get to just beat the crap out of people you don't know with like foam weapons.
It's LARPing, but replacing the moshing.
So working in quarantine, I don't think we got your background on this take. So do you want to provide the listeners with a bit of your background, my friend?
My name is Andy. I'm a recording engineer and music producer and geek, nerd, weirdo. I work at Black Diamond Recording Studios in Portland, Oregon. I've been doing it for about 7 years here, but doing audio stuff since I was like 10. And yeah, that pretty much sums up my life story. See ya. That's it. Thanks for listening.
See you later. Now you know everything about me.
Yep.
Okay, going back to when you were 10 years old, what first kind of like got you interested in all of this stuff?
So it'd probably have to be when I was messing around with my dad's old hi-fi and reel-to-reel tape machine and that kind of stuff. We would spend hours tracking vinyls to cassettes because that was the way to listen to music at the time.
You didn't have Spotify?
Oh, yeah. Spotify in the 90s. The early 90s.
Yeah, the only green logo was LimeWire. Was LimeWire even in the 90s?
Yeah.
It seems Y2K-ish.
Yeah, I think that was LimeWire was like, I was in what? High school, middle school? So yeah, like early 2000s, right?
So you were
like 90, like I want to say LimeWire was probably like 99, 2000, 2001, that generation.
Yeah, I feel like it was
like
right around that. Within those 3 years was definitely
like the peak LimeWire.
Yeah, I would bet the will of my house on that.
And what DC and Usenet. What else were there?
Those were so like
SoulSeek is still a thing.
Where are the rest of these places?
I'm not promoting piracy. We don't condone that on this radio program here.
I've never pirated a thing in my life.
Nope. We're not DJs. We've never downloaded a song off the Napsters.
What do DJs even do who have never...
None of those MP3s that people talk about. We get everything on the classic CD from the local Walmart.
Yeah, we buy... So that's what a DJ does. If you didn't know, listener, they go down to Walmart and they get the edited version sometimes not, and they burn it to their CD player and then onto their computer after the CD player. And then... And
it's
then
a two-step process before it hits the computer. You got to make sure it's clean.
Dude, clean nowadays though is so weird if you think about it. I'm rubbing against that hardcore. It's just an insane thing because for one of my gigs you have to do like ultra school clean, and so you can't dip into like, yes, it's not explicit, it doesn't have cuss words, but it's just saying vulgar crazy shit that you can't hear.
Oh yeah, when people ask me for a clean version of a song, I'm sitting there like, oh fuck, like there's a lot of words that you say that are questionable, and like themes too, not just words. It's like themes. It's like, I mean, you technically didn't cuss, but like,
but you said sucking on my
yeah.
So
I don't know if you can talk about that.
Is there anything sucking on that's like school appropriate to say? I don't think so.
Even sucking on a lollipop will be taken wrong.
It's a weird world. I wonder if they're going to like revamp cuss words at some point. They've got to. Like, we're just ignoring the fact that cuss words have just evolved into cooler, crazy full sentences now.
Yeah, and there's so many like nuances behind like fuck. When you say fuck, there's just, it's a nuanced word. It should be okay to say.
There's so many layers to it.
I know, and it seems like depending on where you go, like people will give a shit about one thing and not give a shit about another. Like you go to Australia and Europe and shit, and they're like, oh yeah, you can say whatever the fuck you want on TV.
Think about cunt, the word cunt.
Yeah.
Like around here, it makes like a lot of people listening probably just got super uncomfortable.
They're just like, what? And we're like, it's the British.
But we're talking about
the British meaning.
Yeah. Did you not hear my British?
Yeah.
Did it not sound like the British version?
Oh, I don't know. It just, it sounded like you might have said cheeky cunt, but maybe you meant the American one and it was like a weird insult, but I don't know.
Humans are so simple and complex in the same exact way because of situations like that. Like, can't we all just be like, oh, okay, they say it over there and it doesn't hurt anybody. Why don't we just,
why does it hurt people here? I mean, there's certain things that, yes, it's nuanced that you definitely don't want to talk about. But then there's other things where it's like, yeah, that's a cuss word that, what?
Right. Yeah. Like, who said that that's a bad way? Okay. I guess we got to follow those rules.
Yeah. Especially like with songs and art and that kind of thing. It's just kind of like, okay. I remember I had to DJ for a event in Utah. And it had to be an entirely clean DJ set.
Rough.
Do you know how hard that fucking is?
I do. I do that a lot, but it's tough.
It's hard. And like you're even like going back to like oldies. Some oldies, you're like, this is kind of questionable what they're talking about.
They're using like weird words like old, like chubby wubbies and stuff. And you're like, is chubby wubbies bad? Can I?
That or like subject matter. It's like, this is real creeper. Like, talking about having a girl like kissing you on the hand and all this other shit. You're like, the hell, like fucking like
wait, how old is a girl in this song?
Yeah, like what's his name? Fucking Conway Twitty. That dude, dude. All of his songs are just like they don't age well at all. Like,
yikes.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. It's pretty gnarly.
There's a lot of music that's not like really going to age well. Do you remember, can you think back to your first gig? Like audio, anything? Was it DJ gig? Was that your first gig?
Oh, like paying gig or first gig? Because there's
we got to hear both, because if you volunteered for your first one or whatever it was.
First technical one was running the soundboard for my middle school. at some sort of event. That was like I was probably what 11 ish was like the first this is a job you have to perform. Then it's not just fucking around with stuff. And that was probably the first gig, quote unquote, that I had to do. My first paying one was I was DJing a friend's house party, and he ended up paying me for it because the night went well.
How old were you? You remember?
I was
under 18,
15, 16, somewhere around there. Yeah. Yeah, it was I think I was 16.
You remember what you played?
Dude, it was 2004, 5, so lots of early French house stuff, Justice and Daft Punk and I think it was that was around the time. I think Justice had either just released "We Are Your Friends" or it was right before that whole blog house started coming up. It was Aphex Twin, Daft Punk, fucking a bunch of house artists that I'm trying to remember, but they're a lot of one-offs. I had a lot of vinyl, and they were from house labels that may or may not still exist.
So did you bring your crates and everything? What was your setup?
Oh yeah, I had my very first DJ setup that was a proper DJ setup was 2 Denon DNS 1000s, which I still own, and then the mixer, the tiny little mixer, and then is it the 1,000 or 100? I don't remember. These tiny little CDJs that were they did the job that they needed to do. They weren't fancy at all. And then I had some Stanton turntables, good old Stanton belt-driven turntables, and those are what I learned to beat match on, which were horrible to learn on. They were the worst to fucking learn how to beat match on. If you ever want to learn how to spin vinyl, don't use belt-driven turntables. Get direct drive. Techniques are similar, because you will have a bad time.
Yeah, I don't even know how to I've been a DJ for so many years, but it's such a different time and it's such a different corner of DJing, because there's so many different facets of DJing.
Oh yeah, you have your festival DJ, your bedroom DJ, your club DJ. That's the Weekend Warrior Club DJ. You know that.
I know that very well.
Yeah, but you know that live very well.
Not lately though.
Yeah, same. I've been there, done that. And then you have the wedding DJ. You also know that very well. What else? The
turntablists.
The turntablists. And then you have the radio DJ, typical, more like an MC at that point.
Right.
Some are still technically disc jockeys. And then you have the producer who then becomes a DJ who sucks at DJing.
Right. Yes. I was talking about that. Dude, Mr. Carmack. I love that dude. He's such a. Do you know who Mr. Carmack is?
Yeah. I've heard a couple things.
Man, I really like his stuff. He's very original. I really like him as a producer. But I don't know. I remember maybe it was just the experience that I had, 1 or 2 experiences at festivals where he just mixing between 2 songs sounded really bad for whatever reason. I'm like, man, your shit's so good. Just take a little extra time and learn to actually DJ it. But could have been the one-off festivals.
There's a lot of that I've seen. I mean, a great counter to that is Calvin Harris. He's a fucking awesome DJ and a really good producer. And then you have people like Tiesto, who at one point I think produced his music, maybe not as much anymore. I don't know. There's lots.
Is Tiesto a construct?
I may possibly. He's just what is it? He's just like Slash. It's just a figment of the imagination. But
right, he could be. I've seen him a couple times. Honestly, I think that every time I've seen Tiesto, it's been a quite enjoyable set. But I think that I was in the situation
where
really
I'm
just
he's a decent DJ.
Right.
His productions have been varied over the years.
Right. He's a whole brand.
Well, he was the highest paid DJ in the world for many moons, right? Until a certain point.
That's so weird to think about, because highest paid DJ, like that word is just used for 70 million things.
Yeah,
like
I know. But
kind of
I think it was,
producers.
I think it was like he was the highest paid disc jockey who's like the touring kind of almost festival like disc jockey. Because I mean, like he always has those giant ass shows in Amsterdam and Europe and like all the big ass techno shows and stuff like that. And
it's a damn good time.
Oh yeah, I really wanted to go to one of those, but hey, who knows when that'll be?
Yeah, it might be another 6 months before we're allowed 50 people at a time in one place.
Glorious.
So we'll see about that. Okay, so from your first show, what was your DJ life unfolding like after, like the next couple years after this, when you were 20s or so area? What did life lead you to?
I moved to Japan. That helped a lot because, you know, they don't card. So I was like 18 years, 17, 18. No, I was 18. Yeah, I was 18 years old, working at a couple bars and nightclubs and DJing like regularly. And it was a college town. So they had active nightlife and active thing. And because I was like one of the foreigner DJs, I was playing the music that, you know, wasn't the most like popular yet, I should say, because it seemed like everything in pop culture in the West was still a little bit of a delay. Like, even though we have the internet and all that other stuff, it still was like to reach the masses to where it's like, oh, everyone knows this song now. It'd still be like 2-3 months maybe.
Right.
Like, and so like my friend would send me a song. It's like, he's like, this is the banger that's fucking happening here. Like, what was it? It was the one that came out that I knew was like gonna be fucking massive there. It was out in the state, Rihanna Umbrella.
Oh, right.
They dropped that in like, I think the single came out in the States and I heard it and I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna be fucking everywhere. And sure enough, fucking 2 months later, that was like the fucking hit. That's the song everyone was requesting and all that other stuff.
Under my umbrella.
Yep. Yeah. And so like, it was like, that was the thing is like, I would be playing that kind of stuff compared to the hometown DJs who were, and the other thing was, is I would play a varied set and my parties were always varied. That was the one big difference compared to like here and over there was a lot of the clubs were very specific genre oriented. Or like themed, or they were the nights. They would have specific nights for this,
like theme nights.
Yeah, theme nights. But that was the norm. It wasn't, and they weren't like theme nights per se. It would just be like that's the DJ. So unlike here, where you have like 80s night and like that kind of thing, where people dress up and do all that, it'd be like no, it's just like this is the techno party group. This is the house party group. This is the 90s hip hop aficionado group. This is the like crazy reggaeton, like big speaker toting guy group, which those were actually the most fun parties because they would like, we already have a giant sound system. They would cart in a sound system like twice the size into our tiny club, and it would just be a wall of just bass. Like, yeah, oh, it was awesome. We got so many complaints because we weren't the only business in that building, and they would feel it those nights. Like, their glasses and stuff would be shaking. It would be pretty awesome. But yeah, like that. And I started just DJing a bunch of different like random parties at bars. And like, it was a lot of really small like dive bars and stuff. Like just, that was what I was playing at first.
Are the dive bars like way different over there in Japan than here?
Oh yeah. I mean, a dive bar here, like what do you, when you picture dive bar in Portland or dive bar in general?
Dive bar to me seems more of like kind of like an older person's place, like bikers sort of thing. Like, I don't know, just like maybe playing like country sort of music. I think that I would picture in my head.
Okay. See, so for me, a dive bar is like a tiny bar, like where it's like narrow, not a lot of space, probably in like city block type stuff. So like the Tube or like one of those type of places in Portland, like would be to me is like a dive bar.
Okay.
And I'd be playing a lot of places like that, but the dive bars would be really small. And I'm talking like one place I played, at most, including myself and the bartender, could fit like 6 people in a row. It was like a closet.
So
bar.
VIP.
Yeah, and he just wanted me to play some house tracks. Like that's it. I was like, okay, cool. And
Dude,
then
what
I
a
played,
fun gig.
And then I had another one where this dude was like, he got me and one of my Japanese friends, one of my Korean buddies who was also there in college with me, who are all DJs. He was like, he booked all of us to play this night. He's like, it's gonna be a great, huge party, blah blah blah. No one showed up. No one showed up, and I didn't do any promoting for it because I was like, okay, whatever. If you're like, if
You
you're
pay me to be the DJ, I'll show
pay
up.
me to be the DJ, I'll show up. And he had no one show up. Like I was sitting there playing to him, the bartender who looked pissed off, and I think the dude's girlfriend. And so I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm not getting paid, but I'm just going to be practicing for an hour in front of an empty room. And so like, it'd be like, there was a surprising amount of gigs like that. But then I'd also have events where if I threw one of my parties, I'd have 500, 600 people in through the night. And like, then when I moved back to the States, I was like, yeah, I got in, like met up with a couple people who were throwing house parties. And I was like, cool, I want to DJ. I have a PA system and all this other stuff already. Like,
Yeah.
I am equipped. Like, ready? Cool. Let's do this.
Mobile parties. Let's go.
And that's kind of what happened was I would go down to Eugene, and I did one really cool block party in Corvallis. But I would go down to Eugene and up to Portland when I moved back from Japan, and DJ college parties and stuff like that.
Right. Was it playing a lot different music like when you came back over from Japan? Like were you able to play more techno and stuff over there?
Surprisingly, no. When I got back here, I started to play more of what I wanted to play rather than playing to a crowd, playing for a crowd. Because when I was playing at the clubs there, I needed to keep people in the building. And that's a big difference.
Right.
If I'm playing a house party, I don't care.
Yeah, you're there like to play whatever you want.
Yeah, my paycheck does not depend on keeping y'all in the building.
Yeah, for real.
That kind of thing. And so I started just playing whatever I wanted and doing my own thing. And then that's when I had my old music partner, Charlie. We started Team Banzai, and we were doing like our own remixes and stuff, which those got surprisingly popular. And then, long story short, he went off and did his own thing, and I continued on doing Team Banzai with a couple of my other buddies. But it's just a small thing now.
Yeah,
not a main gig. Like, and same with DJing and production. Like in that realm, where it's like trying to go out and be that DJ producer combo, where
right.
I'm making all the music, then playing the live shows and doing that the touring thing. It was like, I like that idea, but it's also kind of like everyone and their mother's trying to do that now.
Right, yeah.
The festival DJ got the rock star treatment. And so you get the guys like Steve Aoki and DJ Snake and like...
Dude, it's a circus kind of. Like like everybody's like, oh, dude, I can get that #1 festival slot, or like everybody's like trying to go for this weird...
There's also like, well, not now, but there's so many festivals that just pop up.
Fire Festival.
But yeah, like all of that whole
dude, like anybody can make a festival. That's a perfect example. Like,
yeah, it'd be like the other year, I was looking at stuff to just see what was happening around Oregon in the summer, and there was like the Eugene, the country festival, the big country fair down there.
Country fair. Oh yeah, the Oregon
Is it
City
the Oregon
Fair or the...
No, I think it's the Oregon Country. I can't remember off the top of my head. But that one, and then there was like 4 other like small raves that happened out in like the Hood area and the coast and like other music. And then there was that one that caused a whole bunch of traffic over in the Hood area that a couple years ago.
The one, like the illegal one?
Yeah.
I definitely went to that. Well, oh wait. I was either friends with the ones who did that one, because there was a lot of those going on around here, like gig sessions and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember there being one big, like illegal one that was kind of out toward Eastern Oregon.
Yeah.
And so it's just, to me, it's like, if you're going to do the festival, it's like Coachella makes sense, where you have big artist, big ass space, multiple days. Like money is dumped into that.
Lots.
Yeah, but if you have like the touring festivals or like other stuff like that, it's kind of like, like don't get me wrong, Ultra looks awesome,
Right.
but there's like what 8 Ultras.
Yeah, I know. You always want to go to like the center one. I
Yeah.
feel like go to like the big one, but I don't know. I think an immersive festival is so much different than so like What the Fest in Dufur, Oregon. That was way different than EDC or Coachella. I don't know. There's a lot of different kind of festivals.
Yeah, and I mean then you always have Burning Man, the classic.
Have you done Burning Man?
No, I am not a burner.
Not a burner.
Are you?
No, I've never done it. I think that like a couple years ago I would have done it, but now I have this like, everybody else does it, so I don't want to do it. I'm like next level, trying to stay above the hipsters, I think.
I just don't want sand in my urethra.
Yeah, oh my God, dude. It seems kind of miserable in that aspect.
Yeah, like I just, it feels like it's like, cool, you want sand in every orifice of your body and all on all of your shit.
And it'll blow around.
Yeah, like I had to repair a buddy of mine's speaker that he brought down to Burning Man, and like he opened it up, and it's just filled with dust and shit.
Falls out.
Like I'm like, oh,
like a Jumanji movie.
Pretty much, yeah. You're just like, what? How did it get in here? This is a sealed box.
So going back to Team Banzai, that's what you do producing wise now. It's kind of, I was like pointing out, because I think for non-creators, they don't really think about it, but it's almost like alter egos you walk around with. Like I have interviews on of like people in bands, people who are producers, people who have like companies, people who are rappers, but they're like, oh, I'm coming to you as this name. Like I'm Andy, but also unless I'm in this situation, I'm also Team Banzai.
Yeah.
Like going into different situations, you kind of have to plan it out as well. So
I think before, when I first started doing Team Banzai, I treated it that way.
Yeah.
And it got really annoying. And I felt like I was a bit pompous, where it's like, well, I'm the artist, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And after working in recording studio and stuff and dealing with many different walks of life, it's also kind of like I've kind of taken it back, where it's like, yeah, I do produce, and I kind of keep it now on the back, like on the down low, where it's not like that's my main thing. That's my identity. Because there's a lot of producers who do that, who I've talked to. It's like, I'm a producer, but this is what I do, blah, blah, blah. Like, so they're all about it. And I'm good on you. It's awesome. But I also am kind of like, cool, there's a whole bunch of other shit that goes on that makes a person like,
right.
Yeah. And if you take that and put it into your productions, then it's like, awesome. So a lot of my buddies who are also producers, like, it seems like they do it as a hobby, but their like hobby also happens to make them money when they do it, rather than like trying to go for it as their only thing and not succeeding, or like putting all their eggs in one basket as being a producer. Because the reality of it is, not everyone's going to be able to make money doing it.
Right.
And if you are, fuck yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If you can do like what you're doing and feed into it, it all feeds into everything you're doing.
If you can utilize the skill set that comes with producing for other stuff, then it works really well. Like, I use my production skill set when I have to, when doing recording, like, oh, hey, maybe try playing it differently or doing it this way. And maybe this is a bit more musical, because maybe, which happens a lot, people aren't fully prepared when coming into the studio, so they're trying out a couple different ideas, that kind of thing.
A few type beats.
Yep, that kind of thing, where you've got the lyrics written, but you've gotten them written to 5 or 6 different beats. So we're gonna sing 5 or 6 different versions of the song and see which one sounds the best.
Hey, sometimes that's the best way to get an idea out. Like sometimes it's just having other people hear it. They're like, oh, dude, number 4 was like by far the best.
Exactly, exactly, and that's one thing that I have to stress to people who do come into the studio, because it's not all like you come in and you get an awesome thing right off the bat. Like, yeah, you can come to a big studio, but if you're not putting down awesome stuff to begin with or cool stuff to begin with, you're going to get not cool stuff coming out of it. It's just, that's what happens. And so you can only do so much studio magic. And when people come in and they're like, they don't have the option at home to play back, or they're not tech savvy enough to like record on their phone over the beat, with their voice and have that kind of instant feedback so they can hear, oh, I actually need to be more on time, or oh, I need to do this, or oh, this does not sound good, like, because it sounded way different in my head.
Right.
That's usually the case, is it's what you hear in your head and what comes out of your mouth are totally different.
Always.
Yeah.
I feel like our life is just trying to communicate what's in our head to out here.
Yes, exactly. And then part of my job is trying to get what's in people's heads out into a form that they can hear back.
Yeah, when they're using just like, they're like, make it go boom.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
Yeah.
Make it what?
Okay. Or if they know a little bit and they don't know the correct terminology, so they're trying to explain something and it's like an explanation that I have no idea, and it turns out it's like, oh, you want a delay. Cool. That was a 5-minute explanation to explain an echoey type sound that you heard before.
Right.
Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the communication. This stuff is so like, it's such a language of its own. It's just like, a mathematician is going to know a lot of like words around linear algebra and, physics stuff.
Exactly.
And they're going to be able to explain it in that way.
Yeah. And so utilizing the production side with the recording engineer side, like, really does help. And I suggest anyone who is a producer or producing to also look into the actual recording engineer side, because you'll be able to make better sounding stuff. That's the one thing I see with a lot of younger producers who are really talented. Like they can come up with really fucking cool ideas and concepts and sound design and that kind of stuff. But when you hear their mix, it's like, this sounds like shit.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, like, okay, cool. I like how it's all written, like, but sonically it sounds like just bad. Like it sounds I don't want to say amateur. It just sounds, thin, no bass,
right?
No, like you can tell that it's just they don't know how to mix and how to listen and what to listen for,
right?
But they know how to like create a song, because that's an entirely different realm.
Yeah,
writing and composing a song and actually making it sound good, two entirely separate things.
Yeah,
and that's what people kind of need to realize with when you do a big studio type stuff, or when you do produce something, is that you have to really like spend the time doing all the pre stuff before you even come into the studio, because all the studio does is make whatever ideas you have into like a playbackable form.
Right. And then you can use it, then you can work with it and make it sound good and mix it.
And mix it and do all that. But you have to have the content first. And that's one thing that it seems has escaped a lot of people nowadays, because of the instant gratification. Instant, like, oh, I see my favorite artist doing this, or oh, I just need to download a beat and I can hop into the booth and just go. And it's like, maybe you can. I have seen people do it, and it's impressive as fuck.
Right.
But not everyone is like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a difference when you get somebody who rolls in like prepared. It's definitely a different vibe. Like you've had a homie in here when we've been in here, and it's just like, all right, I'm ready. I got these songs. I got this memorized. I'm ready. You ready? Like you can just get so much more work done when you're prepared.
And you know what you need to get done.
Yeah.
And you know what you like your end goal is. It's not like a question mark, like, oh, what will we get done today? It's like, no, we're getting this and this and this done today.
Right.
And I already know what I have to say. And if you do need to change something up, it's usually very minimal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing, is that you see a lot of that nowadays compared to when I started working with certain artists. They would be a lot more like ready to go. And I think the big difference in that is it's the how people perceive the end result, and what like how they perceive the end result, and they don't have the concept of what actually went in to get that end result. Just like I'm trying to think of a good example, like the infomercial type thing, where you see the end result before like you see the whole process to get the end result. They're like, we've already done this before, and here it is.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I kind of get it with DJing when someone's like, I'm in the middle of, something at whatever BPM, and I'm in this corner of my mix in this key, and I'm trying to get to this vibe within 30 minutes. And then someone's like, you play this song right now? Like, because they just see like the end outcome, like all you do is play music. Like someone, like, you can't come to the studio and be like, you just you put my voice over it and make it sound
it's 6 p.m. The bar just opened. Play the bangers.
Play the bangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, people's expectations are sometimes fooled. We have such a, like there's the bedroom producers is such like a cool, interesting world now. You know, it really is an exciting thing. Like so many cool things at people's fingertips. Like you grew up mess with all like this videotape stuff and like converting this machine to this thing with this sound. And nowadays you could just do that with a click of a button.
Yeah,
There's VSTs and plugins.
It's now just all digital. It's all super easy. You also have YouTube with all the fucking info and a whole bunch of misinfo and weird producers who are like, if you do it this way, it's going to sound like this. And it's like, cool, that's one of 5 billion different ways to do it.
Right.
But yeah, that's one of the bigger differences now is that it's you have that kind of like instant knowledge, instant access to things that you didn't before, so that now people are like, oh, if I want to do this, I'll go on YouTube and look up how to do it, and that's how you do it. It's
right.
Like, well,
yeah,
it's again nuanced. You have different methods and different things that when you do branch out and actually start working in this field, if you want to, it's you see a lot of things that cross over, aka like from production and DJing, and like, okay, DJing, you have to deal with rhythms, tempos, and getting body moving and stuff like that. And with that, you get like a good ear for hearing things off time, especially if you're used to beat matching without hitting a sync button. You can feel it almost instantly when something is off time.
Right.
And then you have like the technical side. So I do a lot of IT work and stuff, and that's, you have to be able to set up a computer and be able to use it. That's a skill set that most everyone should have in general nowadays. But it's stuff like that. It's a culminate. Unlike a lot of other jobs where it's like, okay, you do this, you do that. It's you have to have a breadth of skill sets, and then shove it all into one and use little bits and pieces when you need to. And that's like most jobs, but at least with this job, I have to take in facets from a whole bunch of different subgenres. Yes. So it's like taking from different cultures pretty much.
Dude, yeah.
If you have to do a jazz album, all right, well, they're not going to want their kick drum fucking slamming right in their face. Like,
of course.
No jazz. Like maybe some acid jazz if you're getting experimental, but like in the general, there are standards. And so you have to like kind of go in with that culture of a thing. And that's
you got to like take a different facet of your life.
Take a different experience and be like, all right, well, this is a country song. Okay. Country music is like very vocal and guitar heavy, very tight, very like well performed. If you listen to country, very rare in modern pop country, you hear bad players.
Right.
At all. Like very rare. And so when doing country, it's like you can't be as loose as you would like say doing a grunge punk album. And you have to also remember that like, okay, who's going to be listening to it? Who's the end result? Like there's so many different like facets that go into each individual genre that you have to kind of remember and apply to whatever you're working on.
Right.
And with the DJing, listening to so much fucking different music, that helps a ton. Like you had to listen to a bunch for your wedding because you wouldn't be playing the same shit at a wedding that you would be at Saturday night at a bar.
Yeah. Or at a rave.
Or like a groundhouse party. Like
that's the thing is you really gotta like that's like I think the fun part about when people are like, oh, I want to be a DJ or I want to be a producer, like they kind of forget that like enveloping your whole life into it is like the fun part. Like watching little YouTube videos about this producer, how the way he does this thing does correlate to the wedding you're about to DJ next Saturday. Like it all teaches you little different things, and you got to learn kind of different, like being able to like read people and read situations too, and kind of like be able to show up as different versions of yourself. Like I'm not going to be the same guy playing techno on a Saturday night as I am at a wedding.
Exactly. 100%. It's the same. Like if I'm going to act a little bit differently with my crazy blunt smoking clients than I will with my super religious clients. Like that's just, that's just common sense in a way, but it also is a necessity in certain genres and how you vibe and get the end result.
Right.
Because if you're in a room with a bunch of people getting high and laying back and chilling out, and you're the sober stickler, like either caffeinated guy, that's your mix is probably not going to reflect the vibe of the thing, and vice versa. Maybe like
that's actually huge if you think
maybe
about
you're
it.
like a huge stoner, like I am, and you're going to be doing a session like I have coming up in a bit, which is probably going to be some like very like classical strings type stuff. I don't want to be blasted out of my mind like I would for a heavy hip hop or trap session.
Right, exactly.
I want to be like, it's classical music. Like the people who are listening to this are not going, well, maybe they're probably not going to be on a bunch of drugs. Like that's the thing.
You got to put yourself in like the listening position. You got to like,
I have to change my hat. It's like, all right, I'm going now to listener mode. If I was going to just be listening to this in my car, what would I hear? What would I not like? Okay, back to the engineer. All right, you got to play this better. Move to the mic. Now I'm mixing it. Okay, cool. Now I have to like, does it sound correct? Does this mix with this? Does it actually like feel right when all the instruments come in? And like, again, these are super abridged things. It's much more involved than that, but that's kind of the mentality behind it.
Yeah.
And having to be able to hop between all those hats is like, that takes practice, and not a lot of folk have the A option and ability to do that, and B, like the patience to do that.
Right.
Because it's time consuming, and you deal with a lot of really interesting people along the way. And that's what's, again, like how you said, you have to like that part of the job. Like you have to be cool with that. You can't be like, oh, I had to work with this, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, you got to be like, well, I just happen to work with this type of person, or this type of person, or this type of person. And because it's a much more intimate one-on-one type of thing, almost like a tattoo artist, not like a doctor, but almost like a tattoo artist type of relationship.
Right.
It's a bit more intimate than just like going to somewhere and having like your mechanic fix your car, or having like this dude build this for you.
Yeah, it's not like you do exactly this.
Yeah, like like, oh, you repair computers. Here's my laptop, fix it. Here's money. Thank you. It's like, no, I have to be sitting there working back and forth with the person, because ultimately it's their thing in the end. It's not mine at all. It's not like I have a skill set that I build it for them, and then end of story, I fix it for them in the story. I do fix things, but it's a different type of fixing. It's like taking their ideas and almost fixing someone's ideas and fixing someone's concepts, which you don't do a lot in other fields, where you take an idea and be like, all right, let's fuck with it.
Yeah. Like, you're the designer of like you listen to the words that I say, in this, you use your hands to create what's in another person's head. Exactly. Sometimes like you've taken the time to build the skills.
Exactly. And you have to, and a lot of times it's interpreting really vague descriptions. Really, really, really
that vague. They don't realize is vague at all until you look at them and you're like,
until you have,
where do you expect to go with that?
The deer in headlights look like, okay, let's see if this is what you want.
And most of the time you could just work through it, and they're like, dude, that's it. Right.
Exactly. And so and that's part of the fun of the job, is like, well, I have no idea what this person wants. Time to start experimenting. And that's kind of exciting when you're like, well, I have free reign to just kind of do whatever I want with this song and see how it goes. And that's what's fun about it, is you have that kind of unknown, like, okay, cool, I have Play-Doh to just play with. But it's a song, and it's not mine. And that's the other thing, is that's a little different, is because it's not your song, a lot of times you're not like emotionally invested. So you make decisions that are way more broad and way more, maybe not as calculated per se.
For sure.
But in general, it becomes like, that's, at least I do, that's the vibe. It's like, oh, well, let's try this and see how this sounds. And if it doesn't work, cool, we'll try something else. But you have to like, it's kind of like one of those, you build up a sound or a vibe for the person with the person. And it's kind of a time consuming process, because some people, it comes really quickly with others. Other times you're pulling teeth and it may never happen. And sometimes that's the case, and it happens, but
It's definitely part of the learning
part of
curve.
the learning curve when you're like, oh, I actually legitimately am not the right fit for this person's work. Like,
Right.
I have had that happen where it's like, I'm sorry, I am not the right person to be the one working on this because
Yeah, you got to be able to do that too.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this genre, or
Right.
I don't like this genre at all, and I'm going to charge you way more money because I'm just having to deal with you. And that happens. Like, remember, how you act around your engineers will get you perks and far. Because if you're kind of a dick, we might, charge you the dick fee.
The dick fee.
Yeah. And because we don't like getting dicked around.
Yeah, dude, it's a different world. It's not all cut and dry. It's music. It's art.
It's art. And that's the thing that some people forget is it's not like a
doctor.
Yeah, a doctor.
I like what you said about tattoo artists. It's kind of like that relationship. I feel like that's relatable for a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's very similar because you're going to your one guy who's really fucking good because he knows how to do the art well. He knows how to get your ideas down, and like that's exactly what an audio engineer is in terms of the studio audio engineer and producer is. Their job is to take the ideas that are in your head and make sure that when you're recorded and put down, they're actually good and worth your time rather than like, a poor recording of an awesome song, which don't get me wrong. If the song is really that awesome, a poor recording sometimes gives it extra vibe, but this day and age,
that's a weird thing too.
Yeah. It's
real though.
Yeah. It's just this day and age, there's no excuse. You have such good options to get a decent quality recording, even just for a demo at your house. That like there's no excuse for when I hear a mix that someone's done and it literally sounds like a fucking MP3 from 2001 downloaded off of LimeWire that has been already re-encoded 3 times.
16 times. Dude, one time I had to play the instrumentals for the Outlaws, who their claim to fame was they're like Tupac's cousins or something. But it was just like the worst quality sound files. They were like the thinnest waveforms I've ever seen. And I was like, how many times did you rip your own stuff off YouTube? And I only pointed out because they were totally fucking rude to me. So I don't know. But heard about it, I guess, still. So I do want to talk about Team Banzai's creative process.
Oh.
Like, so, because you've been doing like more modular stuff too. And
get really, really stoned. Step 1.
Turn off all the lights.
Step 2. Get more stoned.
Dude, I was listening to ADHD on the way here. Like the first song is just super good, man. I just imagine it being the first song of like an opening set.
That one was intended for that specific purpose, and then it just kind of evolved into something else. But no, that one was what did I do? Again, I got really stoned. Because a lot of those are evolved. Like they start in one direction, and by the end, by what I release, it's either an entirely different song, or if it's one of the lucky ones, it's done in a day. Like that's how my productions go. It's either whole thing is just done, like all the ideas are just out. I just blew my load all over the Ableton, and it's just a mess.
It's pasted,
and it's just white goo everywhere. And then other times it's just dust going out and little bits at a time.
Dust plumes.
Yep, just and they just barely coat like an airbrush.
But do you save those ones still?
Yeah, and those ones are like that first song was one of the dusts. Like the first bit, the first half of the very instrumental kind of wide openy synthy stuff. That one was all in a day, and then everything else was just incremental. It was like, because it was like I heard the rest of it kind of build up in my head, but it wasn't one of those like, oh, I got everything out, like, oh, cool, done. Other songs like Social Media, that one on there, that one was the whole beat and everything was done in a day, and then vocals were done later. Like it's in my process a lot of times is making the sounds first. Like I will spend 3-4 hours just making sounds. And usually one sound or one bass line or something like that will then spark the entire song.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that's how my process has been lately is I like you said, the modular stuff. I have a pretty decent sized modular system, Eurorack modular synthesizer system. The kind you see like Dead Mouse and those guys.
Like actual knobs.
Yeah, actual knobs and real cables that I have to plug in to get things places, and so I'll use that to kind of make general rhythms and other stuff like that, like just background noise a lot of times now, because I'll let that play and come up with kind of a pattern or rhythmic kind of thing. So I'm not just playing off of a drum beat, because I used to literally just dum 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 dum, and then record whatever ideas would come up with over a 4 on the floor kick, and it would get boring and repetitive.
Hey, it's a good way to get something down, but
it is a good way,
after a while,
but after 5 years of doing it that way, it was like time to change things up.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my stuff would start off like I'd have a bass sound, but like a not bass as in like bass guitar or bass synth, but like a bass level sound. And then I would add the drums on top, and half the time it would just be a 4 on the floor loop to build off.
You get sucked right back into it.
I get sucked right back into it, which that's what happens to a lot of producers. But lately now I try to like compose all the instrumental parts or the general instrumental parts first, and then I will do the drums, because drums have now become way too easy. And it like in terms of like quickly throwing them out and getting ideas and like rhythmic patterns that are basic. And then when I do like the weird rhythmic stuff, that takes time, like weird glitchy clicks that are totally off tempo, that they're off tempo yet on tempo, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Those take time, but like general just throwing out an arrangement of drums for a 3-minute song now is pretty like it. After many years of practice, it's like, all right, cool. Like I can get a general kind of rhythm going and then adjust accordingly. So a lot of times now I'm just building the song off of musical ideas or sound ideas and kind of like vibes of like, oh, okay, like having this kind of like textural ambient kind of thing, and then it builds into this, or it's like just right off the bat we're going drums, bass, everything right from the start. Like I just did a full track, which I'll show you after.
Hell yeah.
After we're done with this podcasting. But none of you listening, you get to wait. That's all done with Ableton's analog. Everything but the master chain, drums, synths, pads, weird vocal sounding shit, all of it's done with Ableton's analog. And that was just to challenge myself to try something different and make every single sound using one type of synthesizer, and a very basic one. And then built-in plugins to actually make it sound good and not sound like fucking karaoke shit from a Casio.
Right. Dude, giving yourself walls like that is actually a really good idea. Like, let's just only use what I have here.
That's what I was going to go into, which was like giving yourself, like there is a thing, there's a little bit of zen of having those limitations. And that's what I kind of like about hardware, is that while I fucking love Serum, if you don't know, Serum is one of the best synthesizers for PC, Mac, whatever. I don't think it's on Linux, but PC and Mac. And it is super powerful. You can do so much shit with it. You can modulate and do tons of stuff. It's insanely powerful and sounds great. Well, with hardware, you can't do that unless you have a lot of fucking money.
Right.
Like you can't just magically patch the same thing to another thing with a cable. Like you need a splitter and then more cables and this. And it's like, oh, cool. Just to do what in Serum is a drag and drop motion costs you $250. Not even kidding. It can cost that much just for a simple utility. Now, it doesn't make sound. It doesn't do anything. But when you have a hardware synthesizer that's built so that you have everything kind of like routed for you, like the Korg MS-20 or the Minimoog Model D, or some of those classic analog monosynths, those limitations lead you to be a bit more, like, to me, musically creative.
Right. You got to work with what you got.
You got to work with what you got, and you kind of stick with it. It's like, oh, well, I kind of wish that I could make this sound go a bit more like sharp in the cut down. So like the technical term would be a very quick envelope on like a filter, and so it's just like just shuts down. Well, you only have one envelope on most synthesizers, and sometimes two, one for volume and one for the filter, but a lot of times it's just one for both volume and then maybe the filter. So whatever your volume setting's at, your filter setting's also at, and you're stuck with it. There is no other way to change it. So that is your sound. Like you can't sound design it and get it like really precise. It's that is your sound.
Yeah,
And
you're working with that.
Yeah, that's what you're working with. And then when you go back and listen to old music, that's how they worked. That's how keyboardists and bands worked. If you bought a keyboard, you bought it because it was chock full of fucking sounds you didn't have to actually design yourself. You just sat and played and based your stuff off that.
Kind of like buying vinyl crates.
Exactly. And you'd like the Dilla way. You'd based your fucking whole beat off of one tiny little fragment of a sample you found while crate digging.
Bless J Dilla.
Oh yeah. The way that hardware, you interact with hardware without having a screen and you're limited to those options, does give you the kind of the freedom to like, hey, I'm going to actually make some music or make some weird noises or something like that, rather than spending your time clicking and focusing on the actual act of doing the sound design. Because that is a shit ton of fun in itself, but you don't really have anything musical after. You have a cool sound.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to like keep going.
Yeah.
Like to actually get to like where you're actually jamming and doing something.
And so that's a thing where I've tried really hard to not get caught in those loops while I produce, where I'll maybe either make a designated day where, hey, today I'm just doing random sound design. Like I'm making kicks, I'm making snares, I'm making weird bass patches, I'm making pads. Maybe one of those will inspire a song. And a lot of times that'll happen. Like all of a sudden I made a cool ass pad and a bass. Oh, well, that's a song. That's going to be a song now. Or nothing happens and I'm sitting there staring at Ableton like everything sounds like shit. And you step away and come back. But a lot of times it's to not get stuck in those sound design loops. It's like I'll make a sound and then I will force myself to stop and move on to the next one and not go back to it until I have to like really focus on it. Because otherwise I will spend 4.5 hours listening to the same bass loop.
Making it a little bit better, a little bit better.
Yeah, oh, nope, I want it to knock like this. And then the minute I add another sound, oh, it doesn't sound right. And so, and you lose that kind of big picture mentality, which that's what.
And then you lose 3 hours.
And then, and then
you're like, wait, it sounds exactly the same.
4 hours of listening to.
Dude, sometimes I'll get into just like just like playing a synth or playing something over and over, just like building sound design. And then you'll finally pause it and you're like, your body is like, whoa. Like you like stop sprinting through space. You just felt like you're like, whatever frequency that was. Just
the only way I can describe that is like the same feeling you get when you take LSD and you ride a bike and you stop and the world rubber bands around you after you stop. There's only going to be a subset of listeners who understand that reference, but they will know and they will be like, oh my God.
They're going to be like, I'm getting into sound design immediately.
Like, because you were 100% right. If you were 2.5 hours of jamming deep and you just lost in the sauce, yeah, you come back to reality. You're like, what the fuck just happened?
Where am I?
Where did all the time? What did I just do? And if you're smart and you're re-recording it, you go back and listen. You go, oh God, what the fuck was I doing?
You're like, what dimension was I on?
Yeah,
yeah. I had a time where I went to a concert. Actually, I went to a Grandson show. He's the name of the artist. But I had working with sounds all day. And I was just feeling kind of wonky. Like my legs just felt like wobbly, like just because I was doing all weird frequencies and listening to binaural beats at some point in the morning. Like, and so my legs were literally wobbly at this concert. And I had to talk to my buddy. I was like, bro, we got to sit down. Like my legs feel like they're going to wobble off from this weird frequency I was listening to earlier today.
Yeah, man, that's totally a thing. Like, you can totally get lost in the sauce when just sound designing. And that's what happens. Yeah. But that's sometimes where you stumble upon the coolest shit, when you're just jamming for 2 hours and all of a sudden you tweak one knob and a whole song idea pops in your head.
Yes.
Like I had a random patch turn into an entire song, and the whole song is based around the same thing, going like over and over again. It evolves throughout the thing, so it's never the same. But that was literally just a random like stoned fuck around that ended up like, whoa, what the hell is it? Record,
right?
And then it became a song, and that's what I like about like synthesizers in that regard, where you have that kind of randomness. And unlike guitar or piano, or where you have to kind of have some intent and some meaning behind it, it's very rare that you can just start derping on the piano or guitar without having some sort of prior
Yeah, you can't just play
skill
whatever
set.
keys you want. It's just like, this isn't fun. I want to walk away.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to know a little bit of
But
something.
with a synthesizer, you can set it to where it generates kind of its own stuff constantly, randomly, and some people might say that, oh, that's not that takes no talent, blah blah blah. But
Oh.
it's like, it's a different type of no talent. It's like, well, yeah, it doesn't. It's not like a skill set like a guitar player, a pianist, or any classical musician. But if you want to actually get something cool that's musical,
Right.
that sounds palatable, and palatable is a very broad term. It does take a bit of know-how and knowledge and fuck around and technical knowledge to be able to let the machine fuck around on its own.
Right. And know when to interfere and
and
when
know
to
interfere and how to interfere.
Yeah, because I feel like it's like you're, I don't know, you're kind of like riding around. Like you're kind of constantly keeping track of. You're kind of constantly keeping the beat, like keeping time. I guess, like even through something where you're just like, like there's a time to it that you're like looking for, and you're like ready to like as you're making your own beat from the sound of nothing.
Exactly.
There is still like a musical time to it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what an oscillator is. It's just putting out a different amount of oscillation over time. The quicker the amount of oscillation that's happening, the higher the pitch you perceive. And so when you're doing stuff with synthesizers, that's exactly what you're manipulating is the frequency of a waveform of an electrical pulse that's then being output to a speaker. And that's like pure sound is the way you could describe it is like the purest type of sound you can get because there's nothing else happening. It's just a single type of wave being drawn in electrons. And then,
dude, learning about sound is so crazy. Like I'm constantly reminded of how just mind blowing it is. Like we just see that like, oh, will you plug that into the wall and it makes sound? Duh.
Yeah.
Like what? It's so
like,
complicated.
It's a whole bunch of really complex waveforms and electronics bouncing around inside to then reproduce this so that we can actually hear it in a correct way that doesn't sound fucked up to us.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an insane, like when you get to the technical, like the really nitty-gritty technical, mathematical, nerdy shit side of it, it is boring as fuck, but also impressive as fuck. And there's many, many smart people that we have built upon the shoulders of.
Oh, definitely. Dude, yeah, definitely. Tesla, for example, Tesla coils.
Tesla, but I mean, like fucking Bell, and like all those guys who helped invent, telecommunication and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not incredibly impressive or anything.
No, not at all.
Just thinking about like the amount of knowledge that I have in my head cavity, just like if this all went to shit and then it's like I'm one of the last ones, and they're like, well, Jake, you know the most about sound out of all the people that are left. Could you remake a speaker? I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
I can make fart sounds with my mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
Andy, you do. So we had met up. We first met through mentorship. So like you teaching me, I'm technically your student, or I was. Yeah. So how did you? We just briefly touch on that if you want. How did you get into teaching? I feel like
the teaching audio stuff was because the awful company that we will not name, that we were both part of for a while, they were looking for people who could teach Ableton and other stuff because they just started a program for Ableton Live. And they were originally doing, I think, Pro Tools, maybe Logic, but just Pro Tools. And one of the other engineers who works here was teaching Pro Tools, and they were like, we need people who teach Ableton. So that's how I started doing that with them and actually like mentoring people as a job. And it started off pretty well. It was a different company back then.
Lots of ownership change at that place.
Lots of different admin change and
I think
stuff.
I think the concept, though, I think I wanted to bring it up because I think the concept is so cool, man. Like
the concept was really good.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to go over. I can't like describe the concept without blatantly like giving it away at what we're talking about.
Yeah. Just a different way of teaching and learning.
Yeah,
and just more hands-on.
It had a much more hands-on approach than normal, and that was really cool. But it had a lot of flaws in the way that it was executed on their end.
Right. Yeah. But so I think on the positive side of it for me, like, again, I went through my own ringer with these people. Like I had a, whatever. But being able to like come and learn face to face, and like if I'm working on something, I can like take my headphone off and ask you a question.
Yeah. And it wasn't set up in the sense that it was like the typical classroom and that kind of thing, which that was nice. And that's the best way to learn, in my opinion, where you're not like forced to, it's from this time to this time, test is on this time. We'll see you then. Peace.
Yeah. It just doesn't work for some people, man. Like I can't sit there and pay attention for that long.
Not at all.
Yeah, I was talking about it because I'm just kind of curious with all this, coming back to the present time with all the COVID sort of stuff. Like, I feel like, all these kids are out of school right now, and we're discovering different ways as a Earth right now, as a nation for sure, but the whole world is kind of learning new ways to learn, learning more like at home. Like, the classroom's going to be changing.
Oh, yeah. I have a feeling that online classes and more remote work and that kind of stuff will probably become way more normal.
Right.
I have a feeling people are going to realize there's a lot of things we could have been doing where we didn't have to show up for shit.
The meetings.
Yeah, meetings, certain doctor's appointments, like, what else? Probably like some government appointment type stuff as well. Like stuff that can easily be done remotely, where you don't have to sit in a waiting room and have to do it face to face, and notice how much faster and efficient it is when you don't have that layer of crap to deal with. Like, I kind of wish like the DMV and like that kind of shit would do that.
Right, the DMV of all places. Like,
yeah, like come on, we like. Understandable if you have to get your photo taken for an ID and stuff, but like renewal forms and like that kind of shit, like, come on.
It seems like that can be very easily automated.
Yeah.
With the incredible technology that we were just talking about, like we should be able to figure out how to have someone stand in front of a line and take a photo to get renew their license.
Yeah. Or like you do it all online and then all you have to do is just take a photo. That's it. Like, that would be glorious. But yeah, I think one of the biggest thing that's going to probably change is how, like, what the priority for actually doing face-to-face stuff is going to be. Like, is it necessary now that we have, so much telecommuting and other stuff like that? Like, and how many people's jobs are, going to just be like, oh, there wasn't a productivity dip when they were working from home.
Right.
Like, how there are so many corporations and other companies that were like, no, you can't work from home. You'll be a fucking horrible employee. Oh, well, government says you're working from home.
Yeah. And sure enough, they're going to do the same amount of work and get it done just fine.
Yeah, and might even do it better because,
there's not somebody over their shoulder.
Yeah. But then other people might, like me included, who, when you're at home, it's like, I don't really feel like doing work. Not my workspace. Brain is not ready to work.
I know, you got to really, that's a new thing. People are probably going to have to start learning how to work from home. I actually had a homie who texted me a couple hours ago. He's like, bro, you got to do like a video or something about like mental health working from home. Because like I'm all about mental health and stuff, and working from home for a while. Like, it's what's normal to you and I, like being able to set up our zone and make sure this is right before I go. Like, we've built that up over time, and there's all these people who are like all clunky at home, not knowing what to do and not how to like.
They're like, well,
they're trying to watch TV over here.
I now have to have a desk, and I don't actually have a workplace at home.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a workplace at home. There is no like desk, or there is no designated area.
Yeah.
Unlike where we have that option at our house because we've set it up that way.
Yes.
But yeah, like, fuck, you're right. You're 100% right. There's so many folks who are just thrown into into the fire, just like, well, you get to now figure this shit out.
Yeah, who not only don't want to, but they're going to have to like learn how to do that anyway. So when you have learned a lot from different facets in your life, for sure. But I feel like I always like putting a pin in this. I'd be willing to bet that you've probably learned a good amount from YouTube and like Reddit forums and the internet.
Oh.
Am I false or true in that?
No, you're 100% true. I mean, with this job and with like a lot of others, you're learning shit all the time. It's just with YouTube and whatnot, especially with YouTube, there's a lot of bullshit to sift through.
For sure.
And that's that. And there used to be bullshit, but it didn't seem to be as much, so to say. Like I don't want to say there were more reputable outlets, but there were more outlets that were better at giving you more accurate information that could be used in a broad spectrum rather than a very niche, like, make the best trap snare ever.
Right.
Kind of shit. Or like really clickbaity stuff.
Right.
Or like my biggest fucking pet peeve. I hate YouTube tutorials that literally only play 5 to 10 seconds of whatever you're making. For the entire like 10, 15-minute video, you only ever hear the end result like a tiny bit. You never hear, and during the whole making of, it's like they're explaining everything, but they're never playing bits of like how it's going, and they're talking too much.
Yeah, our heads need to know what the end is.
Like, yeah, and so I've found a couple guys who will show what it is at the end, but they still talk too much.
Right.
And like but that's the one thing is it seems that people need to see the thing happening without all the fucking commentary, because then it will click. It's like, oh, this changes this, and that's what I try to tell all of my former students and whatnot, and people who are wondering. It's like, actually spend the time to like sit down with the software or sit down with the hardware, twiddle knobs, fuck around with it,
right?
Actually learn what's happening with it. Like, when you turn this knob, what does it do?
Yes.
When you happen to turn this knob and this knob at the same time, what's the end result? Rather than hopping into those YouTube tutorials where they're like, okay, and then you go here, you use this and fucking throw this saturator on and do the blah, blah, blah. And then, okay, and then it's like, all right, well.
Because you can follow along.
But it's also like, if you don't know how to actually use step one and what the guy's doing and why he's doing it, like you can, or what happens when you turn that knob, kind of like, oh, when I go farther, it makes it more high-pitched, squelchy sound. Squeechy, that's a good word.
And squelchy.
And squeechy and squelchy. Or like you turn this up and the tail end of the sound gets longer, like that kind of thing. And if you start building up how you interpret the thing is happening, then when you see something going on and you hear someone talking, they might explain it in a weird way that you're like, that's not how my brain interprets it. Precisely, I think it makes it sound like this in my head. Well, when you're watching a tutorial or something and there's no one talking, they're just showing you, like with software and stuff, you just screen cap and you can see all the mouse clicks and everything. You don't need an explanation why. You can show them like, oh, I'm turning this. Here's how it sounds. Here's how it sounds. It's like, that's what seems to be missing a lot from a lot of the tutorials, is like, the end result's how it sounds, not like why you did it or what you're doing it for. It's like, no, you can do that. Yeah, you can explain the concept. But if someone knows what the resonance of a filter is, you don't need to explain that the whole fucking time.
Yeah, they can get there themselves.
Yeah, you can get there themselves. Or you can be like, hey, if you don't know what these parts are, here's a tutorial that actually explains what everything is. So now when you watch this, you're not going in completely blind, but I'm not going to be explaining the goddamn reason each and every fucking time.
Right.
And so and I'll find that a lot where it's like, some of these, I don't have any examples and I don't want to give any examples because I don't want to badmouth people and right off the bat. There are a couple I can think of, but they will just talk and talk and talk, and that's it. It's like, what is this tutorial for? Is it just,
I'm here to get answers to my question.
Here to try to learn how you make this flume type synth or whatever the fuck you titled it. But in the end, it's like, oh, I got 5 minutes of hearing this like wobble bass, and then or 5 seconds of hearing this wobble bass, and that's it. Like, I heard what you did to get to your end result, but none of the why, or like how does it sound in between these stages, because a lot of the times it's just they're hopping. Okay, and then you add this guy, and then you add this guy, and then you add this guy, and it's just like, okay, that's cool. Like, good job with the sound design, but I kind of want to hear if maybe it sounded different in stage 5. And it sounded like better or what I was kind of going for.
Yeah,
maybe
and
like,
when you add this thing, why does it sound like that?
Why does it sound like that? Like that kind of thing. And like I said, there are guys who do that, and their tutorials are pretty good. But again, those guys also try to or tend to explain everything over again in each video. And that's where it's kind of like with YouTube, there are great resources like Produce Like a Pro, Spectre Sound Studios. Like those guys are really awesome. And Production Expert, those guys are great. But then you have a bunch of these the only way I can describe them is the producers of the EDM era.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, they just started in like the mid to late 2000s. And it's like the FL, maybe early Ableton adopters, but a lot of them are the FL producers and stuff. And
it's a lot of people just trying to mimic sounds.
And that's the other thing I was going to get to, which is like everyone hears like fucking what's his name, really famous producer that I am blanking on his name. Metro Boomin. Thank you.
Is that who you were thinking of?
That is literally who I was thinking of because he's the one who's like, I want that Metro Boomin kick.
Right.
I want that Metro Boomin 808.
Right.
And or like I don't know if you go on like the Reddit that has a lot of kits for drums on it.
Yes.
But there's so many options that are all like, this is the kit from X and X song. This is the kit from X and X song. And it's just like, cool. I just want like a good unique drum set that's like not, a direct rip from this famous song.
I think that people will find more and more when they like do follow, because those things when you see them, like, okay, so if I'm scrolling through and I see like Kanye West drum kit, like I like Kanye West, and so I have a pinch of like, oh, that's cool. But then you also got to be like, but what can I really do with that? Like,
exactly.
If you can't really get to where you're going to like improve it or be able to use it, or like, because you're not really trying to recreate what he's doing. Like you want to sit down and create something of your own with influence.
And like if you take one of those drum sets and you use it, like it's just kind of like, okay, well, you just stole a different producer's like drum sound, like right out. And I've heard some that like they just rip the entire kit, like that they just use the entire kit, and you're like, that's the same sample from an A$AP Rocky song, or like that kind of stuff. And, and you're just like, wait, they downloaded the unofficial drum kit, and they're just literally using that as as their main drum kit.
Which, I mean, is cool, I guess. It's like, it's cool to do that, and then you get something going, and you like get you and your homies to like have fun. It sounds familiar and stuff, but I don't know. It's just kind of like if your end goal is trying to like get your own sound out or sell it, or
like especially if you sell it. Like, at that point, it's like that's kind of a dick move.
Yeah. Dude, I think the YouTube thing is huge for me, because that's something that like I feel like the last, I don't know, year and a half or so, because I've always been a YouTube guy, and I'm always like watching tons of, when I first started producing, I would pretty much just like have it open on this window and then follow along exactly on the right side. And it was just like, I mean, that's how I learned at first, but it held me back. What I should have been doing is just like kind of learning how or what this little corner of the thingies do, and then just playing with them and listening to it.
Exactly.
And seeing what that sounds like. And then if it sounds cool, do something else that sounds that same sort of, dig into it.
Exactly.
Explore the program. I think we get really caught up in watching tutorials and kind of like failure to start.
End result. I need that instant gratification.
Or even opposite, just like thinking that you need to be a professional before you make anything. Like, you got to be the perfect sound designer before you can even start dicking around.
Oh man,
I do that to myself too much.
That is the bane of so many people's musical attempts. Is just, I have to be on the level of The Weeknd. I have to be on the level of fucking Celine Dion. I have to be on the level of fucking whoever the fucking
just make some shit, bro.
Just make some shit.
Make some shit, even if it's shit.
Yeah, just put it out.
Yeah,
put it out, because you won't get anywhere if you don't.
Right.
Like that's the whole point of making this and doing this, is like you make it, you put it out, you let people hear it. Right. Some will like it, some won't. You might not like it.
Yeah, but you did something.
Probably
And you created it,
yeah,
and it
you
probably felt
created
cool
it.
when you were learning it, and you can develop your whole life into it, dude.
Exactly.
Just lean into what you enjoy and just do it. And then if people like it, they do, and if they don't, that's fine. If you like it,
Hell yeah.
yeah.
That's probably a good note to end on then.
Yeah, I want to. So on the last thing to end on, I'm going to ask you this one question, and we'll end on your answer.
All right.
If aliens, they roll on down, they break through the atmosphere, and they're like, all right, we only speak in sound, so give us your best musician, and they happen to go right outside here, and they're asking you this question. So you have to be like, fuck, I have to choose the musician or person to communicate with these aliens on behalf of planet Earth. Who would you choose?
On behalf of planet Earth.
Behalf of planet Earth. And somehow these are weird aliens that like only communicate with sound waves and cool shit, so keep that in mind.
Do they have to be alive?
No.
Okay. That changes things.
Yeah. You can resurrect them in this scenario.
That's a good question.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. There's
Would you think like more like EDM guys, or would you think like producers, like Jimi Hendrix sort of guys, like who are just like legends, or technical?
in terms of sound or music, like sounds, so, or musician, because I'm thinking like, because it can go a couple ways, like you could have people
go either way. I'm leaving it totally open.
Okay, totally open. Oh man, see, if it was just sounds, no words, no lyrics, no lyrical content, nothing like that, I would probably have to say Vangelis.
Okay, I'm drawing a blank.
The composer for Blade Runner.
Oh, okay. Right.
Only because his sound design is fucking amazing. No offense, Hans Zimmer. Vangelis has got you beat. If there were words that needed to be said, probably Elton John.
Ooh, I feel that.
Probably, if there were words, probably Elton John. If there were, it's either Elton John or Freddie Mercury. Like, because Elton John's alive, so he'd still be able to do shit. But for words, but yeah, for no words, Vangelis, hands down.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think all three of those are like, if you had to resurrect one too, Freddie Mercury, that's good too.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yep. That's a good place to end it on.
It's a good place to end it. All right, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming to BS, and thanks for fighting through the COVID.
Oh yeah,
and having this combo.
We braved the plague.
Yes.
Braved the plague.
All right, listener, take care of yourself. Wash your hands like 10 times and listen to some good music. Check out Team Banzai on Spotify.
That's BANZAI. Banzai.
Banzai.